the years, we've done lots of projects where we would cut something and it's just a little bit too big. You can trim it down with your circular saw, which is kind of dangerous, or you can sand it, but the best thing is to use a planer. Get ready to step into the future with Corey's battery-operated auto planer. I'm Danielle, and welcome to De-cor Homes.
Not want to get your fingers stuck in this machine. Good God, that looks it's like a horror movie. Hey there, Corey from De-cor Homes here. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about our Milwaukee Auto planer. Now you're asking yourself, what the heck is an auto planer even used for? This thing can shave off the smallest, from 1/4 of a 64th. Good heavens. What does that even work out to? 624, so 240 plus 16, so 256. So this thing can shave off 1/256th of an inch. So that is precise. Then instead of using a knife or a chisel, you can use a planer. Now a planer, the old style planers, you used to have to push, you need the perfect blade, you need everything like. These days, you get this thing, you pull the trigger, and it's good to go. If you're doing really, really precise work, it's always nice to have a hand tool, but this automatic tool really serves its purpose. Now, there's 4 things you have on this auto planer. You got a safety, okay? You can't pull your trigger without pulling the safety. So you got your safety, you got your trigger, you got your you have your exhaust choice to choose left or right. Let's choose to have it go this way. And then the last thing you have is the knob that controls the depth of your blade, okay? So the greater you go, this will take off that much more of a chunk. Keep in mind, the more you take off, the rougher it'll look. If you take off little by little, it's easier on the machine and it's easier on the piece of wood that you're using. So always start on the lower setting. Start at like 1/64th. And then if you're like, I gotta shave off way more, then maybe crank it up a little bit, but take your time. Multiple passes are better than taking off huge amounts at one time. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind, where's the dust going? Well, the truth is the dust is gonna be flying through either of these holes. So this auto planer, you can either set it straight so that it goes equally through the holes. Stupid. You can set it to the right. So all that does is that it has a mechanism on the inside here. Inside there, the flap either goes left or right. If you want to exhaust out the right side, then you flip the switch to the right arrow. Now you're asking, Corey, what does it matter what side it goes on? You're just going to be making a mess. Kinda. You'll see at the end of this video. This tool uses an M18 battery. You would only require 1 battery for the use of this tool because typically you don't really use an auto planer too much. You're using it to complete a task. Once it's done, then you move on. Even when I have my auto planer, I put it in my work bag without a battery because I just use the battery that I have on site and then I just take it and I put it back in my bag. The main thing you have to keep in mind when you're operating this tool is that it can make a mess. So plan for the mess. If you're working in a client's house, make sure you put drop sheets on the floor. All right, for us, we're working smart. We always make sure that we have a vacuum accessory that connects to every single tool that we have. Check this one out. So I bought a universal accessory set for my rigid vacuum cleaner. There's all these different features. Now I have about 5 or 6 different knobs of these that remain on tools. For this particular tool, now, when all the dust exhausts to the right, it's actually connecting into here, which in turn will be connected to my vacuum cleaner. Yes, it's a little bit loud to use, but the saw is kind of loud to use. When you add a vacuum cleaner to your application, it really helps to minimize the dust. Not only the dust that you breathe in, but also the dust that you're dropping on the floor. One thing you really have to watch for when you're using this tool is that when you're going off of an edge, once you pass this side, you don't want to let the front side dip down because it can take out a good chunk of your corners. Whenever you're going off of a corner, always lean back on it. That way it stays moving forward. If you let the weight of the tool do the work, it will sink down and it'll take a chunk out of your corners. So keep in mind, that's one thing you really got to watch for. If you're trying to take 1/64th out of this and then you accidentally let this thing go and it falls inside this, you're going to take out way more than 1/64th. So that's what you really got to watch for. So whenever you're going over these corners, always make sure that I'm completely flush, but I'm closer to leaning back than I am to leaning forward, all right? So it's like I'm trying to balance in the middle, but if I was to fall on either side, it would be more towards the back side. That being said, it does help when you have a heavier battery inside here because it does lean more towards the back, which is what you're looking for. Another thing I find about this planer, because it's not a manual planer, typically the knives can be a little bit closer. If you only have so much space, the planer is about 5-6 inches away from the end. So if I'm planing this board, I can only get down to 6 inches from the bottom. Okay, whereas at the top, I can go all the way through. So if you have a piece that's freestanding, that's way better. But if a piece that you're working with is fastened to something, you'll only be able to plane up to 6 inches away from here because you'll hit a wall and you won't be able to continue. And then when you hit your wall, you see that it's way back here. Another thing to keep in mind when you're looking at this tool and you're curious, where the heck is the blade exactly in relation to where you're holding your tool? This round metal piece is the center point of where your blades rotate. So that's something to keep in mind. So in today's episode, we have a door here. The door just won't shut. It's a little bit too big. So for this job here, the client wanted a door for the storage under their stairs. We had an extra piece of 3/4 inch plywood just kicking around, so we cut it to shape. It needed slight modifications, so I quickly scribed it. Check out our cut. It's a little bit big at the top, and then at the bottom, it's the perfect size. So I traced a very small pencil line for me to shave off. So this is 2 dashes back from 1/64th, which means it's half of 1/64th. So this would be 1/28th, okay? So when we're taking off 1/28th, think of how small this looks on a measuring tape. You can really see the precision that this tool is able to achieve. So we have to take off next to nothing at the bottom, and we have to take off some at the top. So let's start at the top and work our way down. Before we get started, we hook up our tool to our vacuum cleaner, plug in the vacuum cleaner, turn it on. Now before we get into cutting this piece, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and let's get right into it. Now you're probably thinking, damn Corey, this tool is pretty clean. Check out how this operates without the vacuum cleaner. It's not Christmas time. We sure as hell don't like this raining all over someone's house. The dust in here that I just created, ridiculous. But I just wanted to show you, look at this. So, this is what happens if you don't work with a vacuum. It's actually smooth to the touch. It almost feels like it's been sanded because you took off such a small layer. The sides are fairly sharp, but they're not too sharp. This is a clean, precise cut. From the inside, you can see that we did have a small piece that frayed off, but look, everything looks quite smooth going all the way down. For the outside, we did have a little bit more casualties over here. Okay. When I originally cut this piece, typically plywood has one side that's better than another, and I thought this outside looked nicer, but as we got it primed and painted, it doesn't look as smooth as it should. But you know what? It is cut perfectly. Once we put our hardware on there, we can fill in the gaps a little bit. That way there's some pieces don't stand out as much. So yeah, this piece of wood, it's rough. Like, check it out. Now, this isn't a perfect piece of lumber, but you know what? It didn't really cost us anything because we had extra material. So what we did was we threw this bad boy on. We got to throw some oil on. Yeah. So we'll throw some WD-40 on those hinges to get rid of the squeak. Having a vacuum cleaner go on, the vacuum cleaner takes away so much dust. If you can get the accessories and everything, that sucks up all the mess. And if you make sure that you're nice and tight, what I needed to do is cut the accessories so that it fits a little bit tighter in this tool. That way it stays in here permanently. I was just on the fly. Just wanted to show you how to get it done. Well, I hope you learned a lot. This is another great tool that can be added to your arsenal. It falls in the category of those tools that you don't really use all the time, but when you require the need for it, damn, is it useful, right? If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button. If you like what you see, hit that like button. If you have any comments, please share with us. We love to learn, just like you, since you're here. And I'll catch you on the flip side.
Well, if you like that video, you might as well watch some more, like these ones.